Good. Well, so it's great to meet you, man. I've been watching your work for months now, it seems, and you are a major talent.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I'm waiting for you on Fox News one day.
Huh?
Yeah, you'll be on Fox News one day as long as they can bleep you fast enough.
I think I'd pass up their offer myself.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be fun, like working for the mainstream media is a bummer. I mean, you got a show clock, you got like makeup artists and assholes running around the studio, telling you what to think, what to say, and who not to upset.
And
You
Bill
know,
O'Reilly threatening you, of course.
oh yeah, and if you're a female, like, hey, that skirt is way too long. You got Roger Ailes telling you, hey, that skirt is, you know, 3/8 of an inch too long. We're not going to put up with that. Come on, please. That's not why we hired you. So, all that crazy stuff. But seriously, like, you got a talent, the ability to speak on a subject focused, without notes. Hey, and cohesive, you know, keeping cohesive thoughts together. I mean, that's unusual, and not turning it into a rant or becoming irrational or whatever. I mean, it's like
If there were irrationality, I'd be running for office probably.
hey, you'd be Comrade De Blasio, right? I
Uh,
mean, hey,
now they want Hillary Clinton to be mayor of New York City. I don't blame them. She represents basically everything bad about it, I guess.
God, yeah. Well, I think that's like something just to take her mind off of the agony of
Consolation.
defeat. Yeah, well, like De Blasio is going to be indicted very shortly. I mean, I don't think there's any question.
What's he doing now? I haven't kept
Um,
up with that part of the news.
yeah, well, I'm a New Yorker. I lived there for too long of my life. It's all pay for play and all these slush funds. And to me, the tip off was when Trump met with Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney, who
Oh, I
had
remember that.
he put he's put the both heads of the legislature, who were Republican and Democrat, in jail. Convicted them both, which they had been running criminal native over the state for years. Put them both in jail, and he was on Cuomo's trail, but I think Obama told him to back off. But there's grand juries galore going after De Blasio, and I think Trump said, "Look, we're going to keep you, and just go after anybody you like." I think he gave him carte blanche. Just said, "Go after everybody," and I think Bahara will do it. So, like De Blasio is just such a target-rich environment. He's so stupid. I mean, he's one of the dumbest politicians you could ever imagine.
Sort of
Um,
like the urban Bernie Sanders or something, maybe.
oh yeah, he's like Rahm Emanuel without the intellect. I mean, the
I
guy.
almost feel sorry for poor Rahm after all the problems in Chicago. It looks like even his hardened allies are going to turn on him.
Oh yeah, like rats fleeing a tenement fire. I mean, they're gone.
Chicago.
So yeah, but like Chicago's been a mess. It used to be called the city that worked. Like 50 years ago, when Mayor Daley had his machine, the father of you know Bill or whichever Daley it was, that place worked. And then the riots came and the '68 convention, and it just started going downhill from there. But I'm curious to see if passing liberal gun laws there is going to have an effect eventually. But you know, just
They'll just ship him in from Ohio or something
yeah,
like that, probably.
yeah. Well, it's all gangs, and it's like they could definitely stop it, but the cops are running scared now. They just don't want to get involved. They just come in to cart the bodies away, and there's no there's no investigation. It's like there's a 30% clearance rate or something on murders. So, the place is just going nuts, But the South Side was always horrible, and yeah. So anyway, so did you have any formal training in this, or did you go to school for communications?
No,
No.
no, I dropped out of UVM. Honestly, I couldn't deal with that crap anymore. I was studying botany, actually, plant
Is that
biology,
right? Yeah.
and I switched to English and political science, but I only got a year in of that. I liked it when I was at Castleton College, which is now university, the second university we have in our state. And I did really well there. I was a straight A student. Everything was fine. When I went back to UVM, though, because I don't like urban areas, I think it
Yeah.
is, because it's more of it's sort of like a self-contained, really compact almost city.
I know. I've been
Deal
there. Yeah.
with stress. And then I actually, back when I was using drugs, I ended up overdosing, so I just dropped out. Now I'm making more money than I would have made anyway as a plant biologist, so I'm like, who cares? I'm not going to bother going back.
Well, it's such a screwed up place. My stepson, I'm divorced now, got rid of her, but my stepson, they have that thing, the naked bike ride,
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, now, like, what school condones that? It's like nothing good can happen with a bunch of kids riding bicycles naked, being drunk off their asses and whatever else they're doing. And
Well, the thing about UVM is it's not so much those from within Vermont. They're the ones that are going there for like engineering and stuff like that. They're pretty calm. They might get drunk at a party. What really sucks, I met so many of these people. There are people, because UVM has the pot smoking party college sort of reputation, a lot of people, trust fund babies from like the Pacific Northwest, Southern California, they come and they basically just drink, do drugs, and go skiing. And they're the ones that really have fucked up UVM. UVM just, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, they announced some new plan to defer the cost completely for lower income students. I'm like, whatever. But then they're extending it to out-of-staters. So what you're going to get is all the Vermonters, they're not even going to be able to afford it anymore.
Great. Yeah, well,
unless
that's
unless they're dirt poor. And, Vermont has a good educational attainment, but we pay through the nose for it anyway. Now we have to pay for this. Now I'm wondering, are you going to forgive the debt of people who went to UVM and still owe you money from the past?
No.
I'm like, I'm not going to hold my breath for it.
You're a debt slave, man. You're going to owe that for the rest of your life until you pay it off. That's just the way student loans work.
I've set up automatic payments now, so I've got a hands-off approach. I'll pay them more than I have to every month. But I mean, I see a lot of other Vermonters. They still are in that sort of 9 to 5. They make $10 an hour, maybe 12, 15 if they're lucky. They're never going to pay that debt off. It's never going to happen. The interest will keep mounting. I count myself as fortunate because I've risen up to, maybe the top quarter of income earners in this state, which isn't saying very much. A lot of this state is actually really impoverished.
Oh, I know.
We have a lot of second home owners here, and it makes it look like it's spiffy and really literate and rich. It's not. It's there are a few sort of like wine swilling communities and art people, and other than that, it's basically just the same as any trailer park, honestly.
Yeah, I know. Well, I told my kids, said, I'm giving you the greatest gift of life. You're going through college, and you're going to be debt free when you get out. Don't ask me for anything else. And they got it. Like after a couple of semesters, and they saw everybody getting student loans. They kind of got it. They figured it out. So, but that was just a quirk of fate that just hit upon a business that had made a lot of money in really fast. Didn't manage to hold on to a heck of a lot of it because it's stuff like tuition, lawsuits against me, and all sorts of crazy shit like that.
CNN go after you or something?
No, but we got nailed on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. We had Andy Cuomo go after the industry, class action lawsuits. Eventually they broke the industry. They passed laws against us. We were buying consumer debt and collecting it, and that's like the lowest form of humanity. And if they didn't want us to do it, all they had to do was pass a law saying you can't sell consumer debt. But the banks liked it, so they didn't want to do that to the banks. They just made it impossible to ever collect it. So just say you can't do this, and we'll move on to the next business. But they wouldn't do that. So instead, it was like death by 1,000 cuts. So, I mean, there were big companies involved. I mean, our backer was a Fortune 100 company, you know, multi-billion-dollar company involved in it. But eventually, we became victims of our own success. We were so good at finding people's money and collecting judgments that that the legislature in New York just turned on us. No matter how much money we gave them or whatever, they just couldn't take the pressure from the constituents, which I knew was going to happen. That's why I got out.
Probably from the Obama admin too, I can imagine.
Directly, because the first thing Obama did when he became president was he said that nonprofit law firms, public interest law firms, could now collect legal fees. So right after that, we had one go after us. She got a communist judge, and he wouldn't. It was a totally bullshit case. I mean, by any measure, this judge wouldn't throw it out. And then after he didn't throw it out, he hooked her up with a real class action attorney, and that was it. We were dead. We couldn't win the appeal, and once the class action certified, nobody is going to risk going all the way through on a there's never been a class action lawsuit that actually concluded in a trial where, you know, the facts were actually adjudicated, because it's like, oh my God, we could have unlimited liability here, so everybody settles at that point. So it's just you know, just the way it is. So maybe Trump will do something about that, because he really does. He does know something about the legal system. I mean, just as an aside, many years ago, I had a case, and we landed on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and Trump saw it, and I came into my office, and there's a message on my voicemail from Donald Trump. So, and at that time, I thought he was a total asshole, and but I called him back, and he said, "Yeah, I got casinos, and I got some cases. Can you come and take a look at it?" So my partner and I go, and my partner was a military nut. I stopped wearing suits at that point. I'd sold my business. I just wore a jacket and a sweater. And we walked into his office, and he gives us one of these, looks us up and down like 4 times. And he goes, "Are you sure you guys are lawyers? Because you don't look like any lawyers I've ever seen." We totally hit it off at that point. I got to say, I totally went in there not wanting to like the guy, not wanting anything to do with him, but saying like, hey, this is an experience. If nothing else, I'll have a great story to tell. And we wound up totally walking out of there liking the guy, because he was so freaking funny. And what you do, like I know why you're successful. I'll bet you don't know why you're successful, but I know why you're successful. Number one, you have a sense of humor. You're funny as hell. And you connect across a broad range of age groups. You're intelligent, like I said, keeping the thoughts very connected, tight presentation. Yeah, you'll digress at times, but hey,
most of the time.
Thoughtful digression. It's not like you're off to the races. You know, it's connected, and you have that ability to connect with people. So that's why you're successful. But forget about what I just said, because if you start thinking about it, you're going to screw things up. Okay, but that's why you're successful. I could tell you that after having done this for 6 years now, and I just wrote a book called Viral Podcasting, by the way. But I understand how the media works, and that's why they don't want these people to think. They call them, you know, in England, they call them news readers, you know. They don't even dignify them with any other title, anchor man or woman.
Supposedly journalists. I don't know how much journalism they accomplish.
Yeah,
Some of these people could probably have degrees in just looking pretty, honestly.
Well, you know, Rush Limbaugh always said, when I listened to him years ago, the way they would judge a woman coming in for the job is, hey, would I want to sleep with her? If the answer was yes, then she passed the first hurdle. You know, I mean, you know, you want eye candy for that. And Fox News the shorter the skirt, the higher the ratings. You know, I mean, it's that simple. But you know, people are like thirsting for substance, and like you said, man, for commentary, man, you can get on there and give better commentary than most of these guys, including like Bill O'Reilly. You know, I mean, I'll put you up there with him in a lot of respects.
Poor Bill.
Yeah, well, he's been compromised and whatever. So, anyways, yeah, so I just wanted to interview you, talk to you, and kind of like I want people to know about you, get the word out about what you're doing, man, because like you're doing great work, and you know,
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
hey, you know, you probably have more people listening to you than me. I mean, I get 10, 20,000 downloads per podcast. I don't do that much video. It's just video for me. It just, it's more work. And I'd put out 12 to 15 segments a week. You probably put that out yourself, but it seems like you're more comfortable in video. I'm not all that comfortable in video, you know.
Well, we can do this audio only if you'd like.
No, I'd like to do the video too. If you want to record it, put it up by all means. You haven't done any interviews yet, have you? I mean, I haven't seen you.
I've done it. Well, I've spoken with Red Ice Radio a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
And I've done some interviews. Years ago, I did a few on like sort of the Charles Manson stuff back when I was still into that. Long, like that's Jesus, half a decade ago or something. And then some occult material that I've talked about. So.
So, like, your thing with the occult, like, you're a student of the occult? You don't strike me as somebody that you're really, like, you know, into the rituals or whatever.
I find I don't have to perform them at this point, but most of my income comes from editing and releasing old occult works like spell books, things like that. Mm-hmm. I realized that there was a niche there that wasn't being exploited, which is people that wanted cheaper. They wanted physical. They didn't want digital material because like 90% of people, they don't read ebooks or something.
Right.
And they didn't want to pay through the nose. But before some of these editions I've been making, the only cheap editions were facsimiles, which means they have all the problems of the original scan, whatever's being used. Right. So they've got spelling errors, they've got poor format in many cases. So I just decided to undercut all of these people. Now I'm competing with actual publishing firms.
That's pretty cool. That's neat. So, all right. Well, let's get started here. Let's see. Right. It's 12:12. Yeah.
And this will be about 20 minutes-ish?
Yeah, 20 minutes. 20 minutes, give or take. We'll see how it goes. And let's just create a file. So it's TARL. Why did I think it was I? That's what I had down on everything. But
a lot of people make that mistake, yeah.
All right. My mistake. All right. And it's the 9th, right? So, okay. So, I noticed you're not going to change your handle on YouTube.
No.
Yeah, well, it'd be crazy to do it at this point. I would love to change mine from Financial Survival Network to something else, but 6 years, man. Like, what am I going to do? You got, like, a following built on that. People look for it. You can't change it. It's it would damage your brand.
Suggested that. I'm like, that would be suicidal. I'd end up, the new account, whatever I make, would have like half as many subscribers and half as much support.
Yeah, it would kill your brand. So Patreon is working for you? It never worked for me. I got like $60 a month. I mean, I make good money from this, from sponsorships and stuff, and I use Blog Talk Radio. They send me a few $1,000 a month. But Patreon never worked, so.
Yeah, I'm making more than $2,000 a month at this point in donations.
Dynamite. Yeah. Do you monetize your YouTube videos or?
See, that's the principle. I remember YouTube when it didn't have any sort of ads other than on the side. So I just took a pledge basically to people. I said, you can donate if you want to, if you support my message, but I'm never taking ad revenue unless YouTube forces it on me.
Yeah. Well, now YouTube Google is like the biggest ripoff in the world. They take 95% and they send you 5%.
Yeah.
I
See,
mean,
with Patreon, I get 95%. So
yeah,
I'm like, why would I want to give it to AdSense?
yeah. I mean, it's the biggest ripoff in the world, YouTube.
It would only make sense if you had like, 10 million subscribers. Okay, you can make a living doing that.
Yeah.
But even then, why bother?
Well, like 3 years
That
ago,
T-shirts or something, you'd make more.
whenever Google needs more money, they just cut down on the amount that they pay the creators, the content creators,
Yeah, I
whether
think it
it's
was 10% prior.
yeah,
And some people actually were like, well, what the hell happened to the amount of money I was making? I always told them use Patreon. Even if it's a small additional amount, it'll make up some of that difference at least.
yeah. Well, like I use Blog Talk, because I'm doing audio, and I think this month they'll send me 2-3 thousand. Next month, December, they're 45 days behind. For December, I'll get like 4 or 5 thousand bucks. They'll place like a million ads on the thing, but my other sponsorship stuff and consulting, getting to the point that that I just don't. I probably will dump the Blog Talk monetization because it's
It drives up your viewership too, so
yeah,
then potentially you can get more sponsors. That's sort
exactly,
of what I'm going for with Patreon. I realized if I had those ads, a lot of people using mobile devices wouldn't watch my videos. They're not
very
going to
true.
sit there watch a 30-minute video. There's like 5, 6 ads that they have to go through. What's the
Yeah,
point?
yeah. Well, these ads are like
Oh, I'm going to take a walk around the
yeah,
block. They don't even finish the video.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's Blog Talk actually tracks what they call abandonment, how many people dump you in the first 2 minutes, and completion, how many people listen to 80%. So if you get like over 10% abandonment, you're doing something wrong. Something I talk about in the book. But yeah, I mean, you really done remarkable stuff here. It's not people look at it and think anybody can do this. No, anybody can't. So anyway, all right, let's get down to this. I'm going to hit record right now. Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. The date is January 9th, 2017. So, we are always looking for new people, new emerging media personalities. And, well, somebody turned me on to this person about 2-3 months ago before the election. And his commentary, well, his name is Tarl Warwick. He's out of Vermont, of all places. Now, I always thought that people in Vermont only consumed granola and yogurt. And, I've been to Vermont, and it's a place that, well, it's for people from Vermont, basically, unless you're into skiing. Anyway, Tarl, man, you have totally crushed it on the election. You and I were the only two people probably in the country who knew that Trump was going to win. Your commentary is scathing. It's insightful. It is on the money most of the time. And even when I disagree with it, I still find it entertaining. I mean, you have a sense of humor that I can only describe as sublime. So when you agreed to come on the show, I said, this is going to be one of my best shows ever. So, hey, on that note, I welcome you to the Financial Survival Network.
Well, thank you for having me.
Hey, so you've been doing these commentaries, talking about the idiocy of our political system, about the clowns who inhabit high office in the country. You're doing amazing things. How did you get into this?
Well, first, I've been interested in politics for years and years, but the amount of time that I've dedicated to it on my YouTube channel and in my other commentary that I've put around the internet, it increased during the election. What I saw was the total hypocrisy of people within government, people within the so-called media, the Foxes, the CNNs, MSNBCs, even foreign media in many cases. BBC was terrible. The Guardian was terrible. RT was terrible most of the time throughout the election. I saw these people didn't know what was going on. They were so surprised at what was happening in the election. They couldn't, early on, when Donald Trump first jumped in to the election, I said, well, he's probably doing this as a joke. No, he wouldn't be a serious candidate. Once he, though, filed the paperwork, began to amalgamate support, and rose to the top, it was clear he wasn't just a joke anymore. And when you went into the first 3 or 4 states, it was clear he was the front runner. At the time, the media and the Obamas, the Bushes, they laughed it off. They said, well, you know, it's a flash in the pan. Come Super Tuesday, he's done. He'll drop back out. And I saw instead what was happening. And I'm sure that you saw this as well. I know Scott Adams saw it, the Dilbert cartoonist, and a few others. Very few people saw it coming. He actually swept up more than half of the states, and at that point it was basically guaranteed he was going to at least be the Republican nominee. And they couldn't understand what was going on. The thing is, support on social media for Trump was always vastly greater than it was in the lamestream, the mainstream media. You know, the Foxes and so forth. It took, you know, Fox waited until after Indiana to really even endorse him for the most part. Sean Hannity said, okay, I'm on board with him because he happens to be the Republican frontrunner. Everyone else held out. Some of them didn't even like him after he became the nominee. Some of them still don't like him now. And so I thought it was interesting, first, because of the inaccuracy. Nate Silver today, actually, it's a little bit of synchronicity here. He comes out with a blog article and says what a few of us have been saying since November, which is, oh, yeah, don't write off the economy as one of the causes of the election result. Well, yeah, obviously. People were predicting that months and months before the voting even began. I said before Nevada came in, the Rust Belt would be important. That would be his strategy. It was his strategy. It worked. Clinton is nowhere to be seen at the moment. People are trying to get her to become, you know, New York City mayor or something.
Yeah, joke.
The ins and outs of the political elite, they're so confused, and their allies that they throw billions of dollars at are so confused. Just how can you not be interested in this? Even a person who's apolitical, you got to find it funny how these people are acting. On the one hand, if Obama bombs Yemen or Pakistan, it's great. Oh, he's peacemaker in chief. He deserves that Nobel Peace Prize. But Trump suggests bombing ISIS members, not even a state actor, not civilian groups or anything like that, suggests killing ISIS members. Oh, man, he's going to cause World War III. I just don't understand how people can take it seriously, other than they've been brainwashed by propaganda for years, honestly.
Yeah, amazing. And I knew that Trump was serious. You know, I thought the ride down the escalator with supposedly paid audience, I thought it was a publicity stunt. But then 3 weeks later, I was at Freedom Fest in Las Vegas, and he was the surprise last-minute speaker. Now, libertarians are not exactly his homegrown audience here, and yet 2,500 people showed up there, and he got a standing ovation. And what made me realize is that, hey, he's not a libertarian by any stretch of the imagination, but I felt that the country craved leadership, something we haven't had. In the Army, they call it management without leadership, or, you know, you just have these basically what I call manufactured candidates ever since Reagan, and arguably Reagan is a manufactured candidate too. He just did it so well being an actor that you couldn't tell. But we have these manufactured candidates, and nothing about Trump was manufactured. And I just said after that, this is history in the making. The guy's for real. He's going for it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be wasting his time just to boost the ratings of The Apprentice. But then I want to take this further, because you're about a lot more than just the election. You cover what you call the legacy media. You cover these political parties, which are corrupt to the core, and I think need to be cauterized and just really radiated out of our system here. You know, chemotherapy, whatever it takes, just get them the hell out, because they are just pure evil. And you know, you say things that people just won't say about what's going on. So I think honesty and the authenticity that you bring to the table, you're always you. You know, hard to find in the mainstream media. You don't know some blow-dried guy in a suit or a girl in a micro mini who the heck that person is.
Well, they're good at propaganda, but only if people are willing to tune into their TV shows. Then you've got social media, which is more and more prevalent as far as how people get their news. I remember, like around 2008 and so forth, a lot of people my age, they were in, college at the time. A lot of them were watching like Colbert, similar like infotainment sort of comedy stuff, like a college humor sort of material, and they were actually getting their news from it. Even that, though, now has been left by the wayside sometimes. You have a mainstream network, take CNN. They have to pay millions of dollars to produce a day's worth of material. Even if they're just plunking it on YouTube, they've still paid all of that money to produce the clips that they're putting there. And then they need additional staff. They probably have 5 or 6 people managing just their YouTube account. They probably have another group managing a Twitter. They have staff for each, sort of major pundit that they have managing their accounts too. It's hundreds and hundreds of people, both directly and indirectly involved with their online presence. Then there are people. It's not just myself. There are literally hundreds of individuals who do this. They invest $1,000, maybe $1,500. They have a computer. They have something to record themselves with. They have no overhead other than the cost of internet that they'd be buying, generally speaking, anyway. They put their thoughts out there online, and they can compete with these same people. It's like MTV News there with the, what was it called? I can't remember the name of the video. The one where they were talking about, New Year's resolutions for white dudes. They're sort of race baiting a little bit there, and they had the very stereotypical actors portraying like the Uncle Tom figure and stuff like that. It was very racially charged, actually, even by their standards. They've got like 85,000 people subscribed to their channel. They haven't hit the 6 digits yet, and yet this is a subsidiary of a major network that once was one of the top networks, has tens of millions of dollars to spend, has all the staff in the world, all the best equipment, and they're barely competing with individuals on YouTube or certain other platforms. And then you've got the problem that their material, they put it out there, and their political or social or spiritual adversaries, whatever it happens to be, will pile on because there's no personability there. If one person is making videos, people are attracted to them because they know that specific individual is independent. They're putting out their own views. They're not, necessarily tempering their message, maybe to within the terms of service of whatever site they're using, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. Beyond that, though, they're independent. But the pundit, what do you have in common with them? They're pulling in a 6-7-figure salary. They go golfing. They go on that Bermuda vacation. They have the cat teeth and so forth. There's very little that the average person has in common with them, and it's harder to interact with those people. They spend so much time, they're in front of the camera in their studio. They don't really have time to connect with their fans. Individuals, though, that they don't have the journalism degree, they don't go out and into a hurricane to report. They just stick their webcam out the window when the storm comes. They can respond directly to people, and because it's more interconnected, it's faster. It's more entertaining for people. Like I don't watch Fox or CNN or something like that, but I will watch a lot of other YouTubers' materials. And I comment on stuff. I talk to them. I send them messages, coordinate with them. Now, it doesn't matter what topic it's on. It's so much more entertaining than what you get on the news anyway, and it's generally in a better format. It's presented better as well.
Yeah, it's real. There's no censorship. And any topic is fair game. And well, so you got to have a thick skin, obviously, because there's going to be a certain number of people out there that don't like you, that don't like what you do, whether they're trolls or whether they're honest. They just don't like you because you conflict with their view of the world, cognitive dissonance, whatever. So you're out there, unlike the Bill O'Reillys of the world who, have got a buffer and they're in their bubble. You're out there really interacting with the world every day. And just like me, there's a certain number of people that hate your guts and wish you would drop dead, basically.
Yeah. That's also why we're in the future, as the social media era advances further, it'll get more. It's not going to be less than it was in this election or in this last span of time. It's going to get more and more virulent. Their predictions will, I think, continuously fall flat. Individuals that are analyzing things because they're connected to others, they hear what's being said, especially by, in many cases, younger individuals and foreign individuals, which plays into it. they're going to be the accurate ones. On election night, Nate Silver looked like catfish that had just been pulled out of a puddle somewhere. He looked terrible. He was exhausted. He had no way of explaining what had happened because he based everything on his algorithms that had worked in the past because there was no political paradigm shift going on. Other people, they were live streaming. They're like, oh, I told you so. Trump won. There you go. Now preferably stop whining about it. And we have the Michael Moores. They've done a total 180. They've flipped around, and now all of a sudden obstructing the government's a wonderful thing. If only they had reminded themselves that it was back when Obama was still president, maybe we wouldn't have NSA mass surveillance. Maybe we wouldn't have started bombing people in Yemen and Syria or ousted Gaddafi. What a wonderful world it would have been. People who listened to the celebrities and the mainstream media had attempted to have the same accountability then, 4 or 6 years ago, as they want now. Now, all of a sudden, they've started posting right after the election, for example, about unlimited war powers, sort of the ability of the president to conduct strikes without an actual declaration of war. After years and years of not having a problem with that under Obama, despite the fact that he's killed tens of thousands of people with his drones, all of a sudden it's a problem. Now they want it done away with. Libertarians were telling them to do away with it from day one. They didn't listen. They didn't listen to Ron Paul. Well, there you go. Now the John McCains are still in the Republican Party. They're still going to want war. It's just now you've got someone who hopefully is sane. I hope that Trump really is a maverick rather than somebody who's just really skilled with propaganda. I don't know if that's the case. I have to wait till January 20th to get a reading of what he's actually going to do. I have hope, though, for the first time since, since before I was born, since I was born when Herbert Walker was taking control. What a wonderful time that was. Even Summer the Sun.
Don't remind me, getting to that. One thing you mentioned, which not many people mention, just as an aside, why does the CIA keep having planes full of cocaine crash? No one's ever explained this to me to my liking. I just don't understand why an intelligence agency would be in that position. Do you get it?
Probably they start snorting it on board. They have to dip into the stash to test its purity, and then they just go crazy. It's all about money at some level. They're running it, funneling into the U.S., and they're embezzling that money. Maybe somewhere in there, in the mix of chaos and corruption, somebody probably thinks that it's actually a good idea for the United States to be doing this. They think, well, this extra money, we can overthrow tyrants or something. Somewhere in the back of their dim minds, which are addled with coke and crack and everything else, they think that it's a good idea. They don't really care about, all the gang wars that go on along the border, I guess.
It makes no sense. But hey, moving along, so one of the things I followed is your predictions for the Democratic Party as far as where they're at now and where they're heading, the lack of introspection, the projection that they've engaged in after the election. Basically, the Russians stole the election for Trump. I mean, all of this nonsense going on, but your prediction is, hey, you're going to get killed in 2018, and if you don't change your evil ways, it's going to be even worse for you in 2020. And if Trump is able to accomplish some of his agenda, which I'm skeptical because I've never seen a president basically accomplish very much, certainly since Reagan. I mean, you could argue Obama accomplished a lot, but I don't think for the good. I'm skeptical of any president being able to get anything done, but let's just assume Trump is exceptional because he's so ego-driven. I don't think he can deal with the idea of being a failed president. That's your theory summed up. So let's say he succeeds on the major points of his agenda. They're dead in 2020. Are they going to die as a party because they can't hold their disparate interest groups together? I mean, they're in trouble.
My general theory is that there's an interplay between the midterms and the 2020 general. If the Democrats get it together, stop blaming the Russians, stop whining, stop saying that they're simply going to obstruct Trump, which they can't do. There's a Republican majority in the House and Senate, which is an advantage Obama didn't have outside of his first 2 years in office. So I don't know how the hell they expect to obstruct him. But let's assume they get it together. They get competent leadership, which I don't know who that would be. But let's say that they cast around, they find some dark horse, some less-known state-level Democrat. They elevate them to the head of the DNC, reorganizes the party. They seem sane. They try to work with Trump. They do a good job. If they work with him, don't come off as whiners, because we've seen how good Trump is at using social media. For zero cost, he can completely skewer them if they stand in his way. But let's say they work with him. He will then get some of his agenda accomplished. He will ingratiate himself, especially in economic ways, to the Rust Belt. He'll retain Michigan in 2020 if he runs again. He'll retain Pennsylvania. They'll lose. There's no way they can win the general election if he does a good job. The problem is, if they do obstruct, if instead of reorganizing properly, they continue to obstruct and whine, then they get hammered in the midterms. So they look forward at the next 4 years. They either lose handily in the midterms. Trump does, after that, exactly whatever he wants, probably steamrolls them anyway, and then they reorganize. They'll pull another Obama. They'll get a younger Democrat who's less well-known, less baggage, someone very well-spoken, presumably, probably a minority. They'll get them to run the next time around. They'll actually sweep the neoliberals to the side and try to get neoliberalism light in there like they did with Obama instead of having Clintonian Democrats. They'll do that, or they'll do fairly well in the midterms because they'll have reorganized, but because that requires working with Trump, he's going to crush them in 2020. They may take back the Senate. There will be split government. That's basically the best case scenario for the Democrats is they retake the Senate in 2020 or maybe in 2018, and Trump gets away with doing basically whatever he wants anyway. But if Trump outmaneuvers them, there's one way he can do this. Trump didn't campaign on pro-war. Most Republicans do. He didn't campaign on anti-gay marriage, anti-abortion. He left those on the back burner, didn't talk about them at all. Clinton was the pro-war candidate. She spoke in 2008 about wanting to attack Iran. She spoke this time around about wanting to run a no-fly zone in Syria, which people likened to the one we ran in Libya that fucked everything up there.
Yeah.
So because he was never the pro-war candidate, all he has to do is point this out on Twitter basically a couple times and say, hey, I'm not starting any wars. I don't like the idea of expending our manpower. We need a strong military, but we don't need to have to use it constantly. He will cast the Democratic Party as the party of, we hate Russia, we want an atomic conflict, we want a new arms race, we want proxy wars, and he'll decimate them. He'll completely cripple them for probably 10, 20 years or something like that. Whether they reorganize properly after that, they probably will. I don't think that the death of the Democratic Party is upon us. I think that the death of the neoliberals within the Democratic Party are upon us. They'll have to react if he begins casting them as the pro-war movement and saying, what are you talking about? We're not at war with anybody. We don't need to be doing this. We're going to fight ISIS, but we're not at war with any state actors. They're going to look like warmongers, like jingoists. It's going to be great because that hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah, interesting. Well, when you think about it, they've got a lot of different interest groups that they've cobbled together. They've got the Hispanics, who are now have a natural tension with the African American bloc. I mean, they've got challenges ahead, and these political parties really, I think, have harmed the country. The country's become a big feeding trough for these parties. I would love to see a constitutional amendment to do away with political parties, but obviously it's never going to happen. I'm a realist, but they're really just RICO entities. Just one is the Democrats are directly connected to the mob, and the Republicans kind of hang out with the mob when they need certain tasks done that they don't want to do themselves and that the intelligence agencies can't. So what the heck is the difference? I don't know.
Yeah.
The Uniparty.
It's funny because Trump, the only difference there, I mean, he's part of the donor class. It's not like he's disconnected from the same groups that controlled the Republicans and the Democrats for decades anyway. He just happens to be on the other side of that exchange. He was one of the donors, not the ones being donated to. What I think happened is that for egotistical purposes, I've spoken about this, he wants the Triple Crown. He's already got fame and he's already got money. Now he wants power, true political power in the presidential sense. Now he's got that. He needs to do a good job in order to really satisfy admittedly, he has a huge ego. Anyone watching him, it's not just an act when he pretends that he's larger than life. He projects that image not just to buffer his wallet. It gives him a rush. He can't be remembered as even a halfway decent president if he doesn't at least try to accomplish some of what he said. The wall, I don't even care about the wall and the border so much. I would like to focus, if I could advise him, I'd tell him focus on jobs and taxes. Because once you get that out of the way, you can do whatever you want. The Rust Belt will vote for you again in 2020 because that's the only issue they really cared about. That may be crime. So repeal some gun laws. Well, there you have higher red turnout in 2020, and you'll be remembered. At worst, you'll be remembered as a partisan, like a Reaganite figure. The right will love you. They'll elevate you to a status just below that of Reagan. Well, there's your ego trip right there. Now you can focus on trying to solve other problems. Ultimately, though, the government, what he should do is just get the government out of the way, repealing regulations. Slash the bureaus, repeal regulations, and then the economy will churn along anyway.
And it seems like that's what he's looking to do. So
which is good.
We'll have to see. He's, the first 100 days, that's where you really get the bulk of it done. We'll see with the executive orders, the regulations. I mean, it looks like he's getting ready to take a hatchet to it. He's sent his strike teams into each agency. Where else do you see? Have you ever seen a president send in guys who have advocated for the abolition of the agency, who are heading it up, like Rick Perry with the with the Energy Department, and Pruitt, I think, with the EPA? I mean, these guys want to get rid of the agencies they're now appointed to lead. So that's a good sign. Anyway, we've got to wrap it up. Hey, people want to watch you on YouTube. I don't know, do you have a website? I know you got a Facebook page. Where do we find you on the web?
They can just look up Styx Hexenhammer 666, and they will find a great deal of material there. Or the Tarl Warwick Books blog, but only if they're interested in antiquated literature.
Okay, and that's STYXHEXENHAMMER 666. On YouTube, you got you're over 80,000 subscribers now and millions of downloads, right?
Yeah, well, tens of millions
of downloads, which is quite an accomplishment. And hey, we will have a link to your YouTube channel on our site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and we will get that up today. Yeah, it's going to be real interesting the next year. After that, it kind of goes on autopilot, turning around the aircraft carrier. So
yeah, I hope Trump hatchets all the bureaus to pieces. Under his tax reform proposals, because my income comes from book sales and donations, I'd be paying 10%. As far as a tax rate, trust me, that was one reason why I voted for him. Part of it was my wallet.
Yeah, well,
under Obama, you're an entrepreneur. It's 32% or something like that.
Yeah, 39. I'm paying 39%. Well, then, we keep getting these losses thanks to Obama, so I get to write them off and kind of carry them back and carry them forward. So thank you very much for the losses. You directly got me, Obama. Really appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, look, I spent tens of thousands of dollars avoiding all these taxes every year, and to not have to do that is a big plus. And when Trump says he knows more about taxes than just about anybody, that's not bullshit. I mean, I think
he might have a personal vendetta literally against the IRS because he claims, well, I've been audited every year. If that's true, I can understand why he'd be pissed off. It'd be just rubbing it in their faces to disband them or lower the tax rate so they have less work and less justification for their income.
Yeah, well, wealthy people, a big organization, it's not unusual for one little part to get audited and another and another. I don't know that his whole company got audited or he got audited every year. I mean, I think he just didn't want to show his tax returns. I think there's probably stuff in there that might be embarrassing or
Well, I can't
who
imagine he's
cares?
given very much to charity. That's one thing his critics have said that they're probably right on, but why would
So
I
what?
care?
So what?
It doesn't affect me.
Obama was never much of a charitable person till he became president.
The
Right?
Clintons gave a big fat, what was it, 10%? That's not bad, but they gave it to the
Yeah,
Clinton
to
Foundation.
themselves. Yeah,
That's
to them.
charitable.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, I'm
wonderful giving right there, man.
really impressed with that.
Yeah, they
So,
paid themselves.
yeah, it's great. All right, man. Hey, well, it was great talking to you, and good
Yeah,
luck.
if you ever wish to speak again about any of these issues, I'm all ears.
All right.
So
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll definitely have you back on, especially when the shit hits the fan in
I'll come
Congress.
midterms. Oh,
What's that?
geez.
Oh, it's going to hit the fan soon. And there'll be stuff happening. I've always said that I believe Trump's presidency will be defined more by his reactions to external events than actually his programs being implemented, meaning the black swans. Like some shit happens that screws up the dollar or civil unrest or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen. One thing
That's
I've
why he
learned.
might be going. That's why he might be on board with audit the Fed. Maybe he realizes that they're going to try to crash the economy on his watch.
Oh,
They're about due to
it
try
has
it
to
again anyway.
crash. Whether they do it or not, it has to. So they might as well do it on someone's watch who they hate. You know, it's got to crash because it's been. We're going on the 9th year now, so it's due. All right, man. But we'll talk again.
All right.
All
You
right,
have a good day.
Thanks so much. All
Bye.
right. You be well. Bye.